Welcome back, everybody. We are off on our next social studies lesson. So we have just finished talking about European exploration, European explorers, and we talked about De Vaca, La Salle, Coronado, and now we're going to talk about why they explored. So grab your social studies notebook and a pencil, and you need to write down in your notebook motivation for exploration. And I started my European Explorers on page 18, and I actually did a lot of notes, and some of them I didn't need. So 16, 17, 18, 19, 22. So it looks like I'm starting on my notebook on page 23. So whatever number yours is, you need to go ahead and write down in your table of contents. We're going to title the top of our next blank page the same as what we did in our table of contents. So exploration, motivation. And our big question is, why did the explorers travel? Why did people start exploring? Why did people go through and do this exploration? And I do want to show you guys a quick PowerPoint. And then once we are done with the PowerPoint, we'll come back here and write down a couple of extra notes for our exploration motivation. So one of the main motives for exploration that we had, or that Europeans had, was because, you had France, you have Spain, you have England, and all of these countries are trying to be better than everybody else. And so as a result, they were all competing against each other. So they wanted to prove that they were the best and they were the smartest. And then they all also wanted to expand and be the most powerful. So it was this big competition between the different countries in Europe. And the big reason that they started exploring was so that they could get more money, they could get more power, and so they could basically show off, I'm the best, I'm better than everybody else. And that is their main reasons, or some of their main reasons for exploring. So think for a second, do you think countries will compete in order to explore Mars? And what problems do you think you could result from that? And that's actually going to be a discussion post question that you guys will answer in just a few minutes. But I will tell you that we're actually probably going to need to talk about competing to explore and land on the moon more than we talk about exploring Mars. Okay, so we have these countries competing, we have these countries trying to prove that they're the best, and one of the things that they needed in order to prove that they were the best is that they needed all of this money, and they also needed something called economic opportunities. And economic opportunities is basically them trading goods and services with the people who lived in America. So the people who lived in the Americas did not have horses before the Europeans arrived. So the Europeans brought horses, they brought grapes and bananas and sugar, and then once they were here in the Americas, the Europeans started looking around and like, wow, there's all this good stuff to eat, like corn and tomatoes, and the big one that people always get surprised about are potatoes. Potatoes are not an Ireland thing. They were American Indian group thing, and we the Europeans took it over, and the Irish started actually using a lot of potatoes. So that's another history lesson for another day. But these different economic opportunities also helped the countries try and get better and one up everybody else. So think, pair, share. We're going to go ahead and skip this one. Don't worry about it. And this video. And we're at the end of our slideshow, so we're going to talk about our exploration motivation. The first group of people that we're going to talk about was the biggest group of explorers we had, and that is your Spanish explorers. And there are 3 reasons the Spanish explored. The first big reason was for gold. And I'm going to draw, because I like drawing pictures to help me remember things. So I'm going to draw a nice little gold nugget right here and here and here. It's all shiny. Real gold, and you find in the ground is not really shiny, but we're going to pretend it is today. So gold. Basically, this gold was to make money for Spain, the main country. I'm going to move this down just a little bit so you guys can see. To make money for Spain and individual, this is a new word, conquistador. It is a Spanish word, and it mainly means like a conqueror / explorer. So Cabeza de Vaca and Coronado would both have been considered conquistadors. So gold was a big thing. Explorers were like, oh, I can make it rich. I can find all of this gold and then I'll be rich and famous. Which brings us to our next one, and that is glory. They really wanted to be famous. They loved the idea of this. Kings and queens would thank them for finding all this gold and helping them provide for the country. They'd get to keep some of the gold. People would love them, and they would want for nothing. So a lot of people risked everything to become explorers in order for the gold and the glory. So this is to gain fame. Fame and power. And in case anybody's wondering, this little upside down 4 is an and. Gain fame and power, and to establish Spanish colonies. So remember, the conquistadors needed somebody to back them up. So they usually had a king or a queen from Spain convincing them to go off and look for these new places and explore, hoping to find gold. But this glory part was not only to gain fame and power, but Spain expected these conquistadors to establish and find places and claim Viva la Spain. And this is where they expected people to claim the land for their country in order to have, the biggest country and the most colonies. And last but not least, we have gold, glory, and God. So we have people who make churches. This is a really weird looking church. And basically, they covered gold and glory by saying, oh, we're doing this for God, we're doing this for our church and our faith, and we're going to go out and help these people. And they did do quite a few good things as the Catholic Church, but sometimes they also did some not as good things. And so this was to establish and spread the Catholic Church beliefs. And there were quite a few missions and quite a few churches that were established where Spain claimed, and they did provide some protection. They taught the American Indian groups different trades, but they could also be kind of ruthless, and they kicked out some of the American Indians from where they had lived for centuries before. Okay, so here are our Spanish explorers. As always, if you need to pause the video and finish writing your notes, feel free to do so. Otherwise, we're moving right into our French explorers. So our Spanish explorers went for gold, glory, and God. Our French explorers did almost the same thing. The first one they wanted was power. Specifically, they really wanted the fastest trade routes, and they also wanted to claim land for France. So the little F on my flag is for France. So the French king, he was not so worried about making sure they established churches, but he definitely wanted power, and he wanted the fastest. Oh, let's write that down. As I said, he wanted the fastest water route and to claim land for France. The other side of this is he basically wanted two things: the power, which kind of ties into the glory that the Spanish explorers were looking for, but he also wanted wealth. And that ties back into that gold. So I'm going to draw some more gold nuggets because they're all lumpy and they don't have to look like anything in particular. Remember, our gold nuggets are going to be shiny today. So they were looking for gold. And spices. And they didn't really find any where the French claimed their land. But what they did find were animal furs. And they made quite a bit of money trapping animals and then skinning them and selling them to the rich people back in Europe, in England, Spain, and France. And people would pay large sums of money in order to have a real animal fur skin jacket or coat or pair of boots. And so they made a lot of money using the animal furs. So thank you again. Be ready to discuss this in your next social studies class, and make sure you press pause if you need to catch up on any of these sections of notes.